Okay, I will call the meeting of the West Newbury Selectboard to order at 7:09 p.m. February 27th. And this meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on the local cable channels and on the internet. The meeting is also accessible by remote participation and with instructions on the published minutes or agenda. There's an annual town meeting and special town meeting scheduled for Monday, April 24th at 7 p.m. At the town annex. Town election day is Monday, May 1st. The last day to obtain nomination papers from the town clerk is March 9th at 5 p.m. And nomination papers are due to the town clerk no later than March 13th at 5 p.m. So as always, got a call for volunteers. There are numerous opportunities to work as a committee or on various committees, boards and commissions for that matter, which are elected positions, and it's a board or commission. But suffice to say that that help is needed. And if somebody's out there and hears this and is interested, reach out to the town clerk or go to www.newbury.org/volunteer on the town website. And anyone can subscribe to town emails, news and announcements, or agendas, news and announcements at the town website, wnewbury.org/subscribe. So for regular business, the first item is a road race, permit for a road race. There.
We're joined by Rich Morrow from UCAN Sports.
Yeah, great. Hi, Rich.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? So this is
Doing great.
Good. Looks like this is scheduled or planned for June 11th, 23. It's
Yes.
a half marathon. It's I think by a route that you've used multiple times before.
Correct.
Yeah. And let me see, do we have?
Did the police chief and fire chief sign off on this? Rich?
I did not send the application to the chiefs. I think there's been a little confusion in years past about whether I was to do that or I was to sign it and submit it, and then it got rerouted. I'm happy to do it either way, but I think last year I signed it and submitted, and then it was routed through the different departments. So I did not send it to the chiefs this year.
What's the process, Amos?
So it might be, I might suggest in the absence of the town clerk for health reasons tonight, that maybe if the board could agree on the date and time, and then if there's any conditions that come out of the chief's review, that those would be communicated, promptly, because I don't know.
Okay.
And I think we were supposed to, I believe we receive verification of insurance. Is that?
But that's always not been an issue, but it requires, no later than 10 days prior, so we always have received a certificate of insurance.
Okay. All right.
I have one other question.
Go ahead, please.
Rich, one of the things that we've been asking race events to do is to put up signage along the route so that residents will know ahead of time if they're, like, for example, their street is going to be impacted. I can't remember if this event had that request previously. Is that something you typically do?
Yeah, we have those signs. We haven't been asked in the past, but we have those signs, and we do that with other communities. So not a problem at all. Happy to do that.
Okay, so major streets that will be impacted, that would be great.
You bet.
Okay.
And Rich, what we've been doing more in the last year or so is put something out on the town Facebook and website, you know, in the week or so leading up. That doesn't target the neighbors specifically, it's townwide. But just to give people, you know, a reminder that the event is coming, and that's helpful and appreciated by the people living on the affected streets, just so they have a reminder that there might be some, you know, minor disruption.
Are there
Yeah,
going
that's
to be
great.
any
Makes
porta
perfect sense.
potties?
We do have 2 water stations in West Newbury, and the street addresses are on the application. We typically would put porta potties at one of those stops, unless you asked me not to, and then we would find another solution. But
Well,
typically we
I
would try
just-
to do that.
I would just ask that they be the amount of time there at the spot would be as limited as possible.
You bet. What we typically do is have them delivered on Friday, leading into the race, and then they're picked up on Monday. So we try to keep them there as, for just the weekend of the event. And again, if you would rather us not do that, I totally understand, and we'll position them in other spots, but that's typically our plan.
So that was not completed on the application, number 8, location of temporary toilet facilities. So if you could add that,
Sure,
Are you saying-
absolutely.
okay. So would it be either 38 Rogers Street or 43 Moulton, or would it be both? Oh, sorry, that was
Yeah, it
water
says,
stations, yeah.
yeah, it was, but he said that they would be at one or the other.
Okay.
The porta potties would be at one or the other.
Yeah, we would choose one and not the other, and I would want to visit that to make sure that I was comfortable with the proper location before I committed to which of the 2. And again, if there was an issue, if there's a concern about having porta potties on the course, we can eliminate them and not have them in West Newbury. That's not a problem. We do like to have them somewhere along the route, but if you would rather us locate those in Newburyport or Newbury, then we can do that.
I guess being in West Newbury, they're nearer the midpoint, which is probably makes sense.
It is convenient.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, you know, just for future reference, Rich, again, because, you know, you've done this before, and I think, is the route identical?
It is, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, just for, you might make a note on your copy of this for future reference. You know, if you could specify which location and just sort of fill in the blank on that number 8, then, you know, then we'll know, and that way, if we decide there's an issue with that, it's easier for us to deal with it.
Sure, that makes good sense.
Okay. Did you have anything else, Wendy?
No, I'm just not clear on the process, so you're asking us to approve it pending?
Well, yeah, maybe I just, I don't know, Rich, how much, you know,
We
it
have
seems
plenty
like
of time.
we're well out at this point, so there's no issue, I think, in terms of lead time. I think just, you know, maybe give the applicant some comfort that this date and time will probably work, but
Yeah.
maybe we'll bring it back 2 weeks from tonight when we've got, you know, the answers that you asked for.
And the police and fire chief
Yeah.
sign off.
Yeah.
Does that sound all right, Rich?
Yeah, that's totally reasonable. And again, if you'd like me to reach out to the police and fire departments, I'm happy to do that. I think I was just a little unclear as to what the process was.
Yeah, we can
But
take care of
whatever is
that.
convenient.
Yeah, no, our town clerk's office has been handling that. We've got the clerk's out sick today, so I think if, you know, we would have an answer if he was here, but I'd rather just wait till he's
Yeah, I think
back.
that
and
makes sense.
get the
Okay.
answer. So we'll ship this off to Chief Dwyer, and if he has any questions, if he hasn't already seen it, if he has any questions, we'll put him in touch with you directly.
Okay,
So-
that works.
But I think Jim would probably typically look at a calendar and see if there was any conflict with the date.
Yes,
I mean, I'm unaware of any conflict with that date. Jim hasn't seen this at all yet, right, Angus?
No, he would have. He's the one who contacted, Rich to confirm.
Oh, okay, so he probably would have pointed out if there was an issue with that date, with any other.
I think so. It's
Everything else
just,
going
yeah, with everything going on, it's
Yeah.
not something I've talked with him about.
Okay, okay, great.
Good.
So, okay, so we'll bring that back, 2 weeks from tonight and, that'll be fun. Good.
Okay, great.
All right, thanks, Rich.
Thank you. I appreciate the help and apologies for the confusion with those signatures. I'm happy to get that worked out and we'll revisit in 2 weeks.
Sounds good, Rich. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
You too.
bye-bye.
Bye now.
All right, item B
Okay.
is a request for temporary signage to accompany the Canicross event, which has been previously approved for Pipe Save No Ponds. The details are in your packet.
Yeah.
So it's just the one page.
Yeah,
So I'm assuming this is gonna be the same location as the high school, the senior signs, like along the driveway? Doesn't really say where.
I think, I read that to mean more of the entrance visible from the street.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming. I think they've been there before. or
Really?
I think there have been events before. I can't recall what, where there have been signboards out at the entrance to Pipe State.
Okay,
So talking about Friday, the 17th to Monday, the 20th.
mhm.
We just need to, yeah, obviously make sure they don't impede sight distance, because it's already a tough,
Right, right.
intersection.
Yeah, in fact, they should be, if that's the case, they should probably specifically be on the east side, because I think the sight distance is worse on the, coming from the west.
Yes.
So do we
You
need a
anything else?
motion? No?
Yeah, no, I think we have need a motion.
All right, so I move to approve the request to have signage at Pipe Stave for Friday, March 17th through Monday, March 20th for the Tales for the Trails event.
At the entrance to Pipe State area.
Right.
Yeah,
And I agree with Rick's designation of the side there, yeah.
yeah. Okay, great. Any discussion? Oh, second. Any discussion?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the town meeting warrant, the proposed warrant articles.
So this is, we did invite, both the, Open Space Committee and the Park and Rec. I know that with the schedule for open space and specifically the conservation agent, she's not able to join till more like 8 or even 8:30.
Mhm.
So I'd suggest hold off on the open space for the invasive species management. But let me see who we've got, if we have someone here from Park and Rec to speak to their proposed articles.
I don't see anybody.
I don't see anyone yet, so maybe we'll hold off on those until Brad
Okay.
arrives. I do know he plans to participate.
I'm here. I'm not sure what my
Oh.
name is, but I'm here.
Oh, right. Okay.
Hey,
Oh, that must be Annie with. You have little emojis next to the name Annie on your.
There he is. That's not Annie.
yeah.
His daughter's named Annie.
Great, so maybe start with Park and Rec, and then
Sure.
there's a number of articles that the board can either take up tonight or at a future meeting, but those with sponsors, we've invited in the sponsors tonight, Park and Rec, and later this evening, Open Space, and then 2 weeks from tonight, I know we'll have the Water Commission here. And so any that you have not yet recommended are kind of the inbounds for review.
Okay. So where are we number wise for Park and Rec?
So we had 32 is the infield grader. 33 is the pipe stay field 6 restoration. And 34, while it was put in by the DPW director, was in coordination with Park and Rec Commission. So I'm sure Brad would be happy to speak to that one as well. That's pipe stay fencing.
Right.
And so, and I do have all of the article backup materials are posted to the town website under the select board meeting packets for tonight. So if we get into talking about, locations or geographic things, I can pull that up and do a screen share if you'd like. So it's 32 to 30, 32, 33, and 34 are the ones that I think Brad would be happy to speak to if you have questions, or if you just want to invite just a brief summary.
Yeah, Brad, could you give just a quick description of the infield grader?
Yeah,
The equipment and the purpose.
The intent of the town acquiring this equipment is to address the maintenance burden that's typically outsourced, has been outsourced over the past 18 months or so. We still need to do a spring cleanup, but this will greatly make us more efficient in addressing interim growth of weeds as you get into the warmer growing season, when warm weather grasses tend to grow in the infields. It's to be stored at Bachelor and utilized by Commissioner Alex Niles, who, as well as Tom Flaherty, to dress up the infields, mostly to address it between at the end of the season and then when the River Rivals or River Valley tournament starts in July.
And I will just add to this, and this is something we talked about with the Park and Rec Commission meeting maybe 2 weeks ago. I did go ahead and talk to insurance to see whether a volunteer would be covered for use of this equipment. They would, and they just would say that we want to make sure that we follow best practices. So if there's any kind of OSHA training or things on this particular equipment, that we ensure that any volunteer is appropriately given any kind of guidance or oversight. But they said that would be covered, and that was great news, because obviously we want volunteer help. We need volunteer help, and I thought insurance would give me a different answer. So I was really happy to hear that they were fine with that, as long as we use good judgment in whom specifically uses it. Don't just it's not a free for all.
So
I have a question.
Sure.
Brad, you said that you want to use this after the season ends, pretty much, and that and correct me if I'm wrong, I think I had read somewhere that, or I may be wrong, that we want to make the fields more desirable to other organizations, and I just want to know why that is. This piece of equipment is going to stay at Bachelor. Parks and Rec, when we discussed this with Wayne, maybe we should get a trailer so that it could be taken up to Pipe Stave or the fields behind the page. That was immediately like, no, we don't want to put it on a trailer. We don't want to take it anywhere. Let's focus on the assets where West Newbury youth have the greatest presence, which is at Bachelor. And the rate of weed growth is a factor of temperature and moisture. So it's likely that the equipment would be used prior to the end of the season. If we're not getting a bunch of rain, may not need to be used. I don't know. I'm not really a baseball sports coach or a league operator. We're largely bringing this forward based on the recommendation of Alex Niles, who's a commissioner as well, and has been overseeing the fields and baseball in general at Bachelor and taking a big role there. The fields, just as an aside, the primary field that we have used by outside groups, it's a outfit out of Salisbury. They're using Rip City Softball is their name, and they're using the fields behind the Page School. We don't have a town softball program that utilizes that asset. We don't provide a porta potty for them. And this will be the first time in 3 years, I believe, that we will have provided any type of maintenance service at those diamonds. But it's good to see those diamonds getting used, because someday down the line we'll need to use them as swing space for West Newbury Youth League baseball, should we ever do some renovations at Bachelor.
So, but you just said they're going to stay at Bachelor?
The greater,
Or
yeah. The greater, yeah. The whatever this piece of equipment is called. And if Wayne and the highway department wanted to transport it themselves to do this work, by all means. I mean, that has not been discussed, and I'm not pledging that would happen by Wayne and his team, but it would be available should the town need to take it to other assets.
Brad, what's this powered by? What is the grader powered by?
It's dragged by the garden tractor. The Parks and Rec has 2 garden tractors. We only use one.
Okay, so it's not a new piece of power equipment then?
No, it's a
Okay,
drag.
good. Great, okay, thanks. Just so you understand why I asked that question, you know, we have.
Yeah, it's not a PTO, or like you don't have to attach like a, I don't know, like a cable or anything to operate it. As far as I know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why I was asking is, you know, we have a policy now regarding as of the beginning of FY24, regarding purchase of not purchasing fossil fuel powered equipment if there is an electric alternative. That's not relevant here, but that's why I was asking the question, and I figure it's worth mentioning it so that anybody else who hears that understands that we do now have that policy. So we need to, you know, be looking when there is a piece of power equipment, you need to look for an electrical alternative that's available, for a battery powered alternative. Thanks.
Yeah, so Brad, the rationale talks about all the fields. I'm still trying to understand. The intent is to only use it at Bachelor unless Wayne wants to bring it somewhere else?
That's my understanding. Yes, Wendy. It can be used elsewhere. I think that's part of the rationale. But when we talked about transporting it, or P&R transporting it, you know, we're elected officials. We were advised that just keep it at Bachelor. Don't transport it. And that was based on DPW's experience at a previous employer.
Mm-hmm.
Because apparently they were doing it that way, and they were told not to.
So Angus, is it worth modifying the article request form to reflect that, or is that?
I think that would kind of, I don't think so, because I think we'd kind of be chasing our own tails with 43 articles. There are others that kind of, the article request form is a moment in time as of the time it's submitted. You know, it goes through some amount of churn in the run up with the select board and FinCom review process. And it's really, I think voters look to the booklet, you know.
So if FinCom uses this to write the rationale though, then that's a problem.
Yeah, no, I think it would be something that when FinCom reviews the article, which is scheduled for this Wednesday, you know, definitely we make the point clear.
Okay.
I just don't want to.
I'm suggesting that we have to do it. I just want
Yeah.
to, because the fact that it's mentioned.
Yeah,
it's
no,
outside-
you're right. That could create misunderstanding.
Right.
So,
Okay,
Brad, just help me remember when we're there at FinCom in 2 nights to make sure that that's made clear so that they understanding.
Okay. Any other questions on the 5,000? I believe that's a $5,000 article. The next one, refresh my memory. I'm sorry, I don't have anything in front of me.
Field
should we
6
vote on this
restoration.
first before we move
Excuse
on?
me?
Should we vote on this first?
Yeah,
I move to support, Article 32.
Second. Any further discussion, Archie? Anything?
I don't know. It spending $5,000 for something that might get a little bit of use. I don't know. It seems like it's not even being used in the whole town. Little.
I thought it was $5,000. I didn't think it was $25,000.
No, it's 4422. So under $5,000, Archie.
I know.
Okay, I thought you said 25,000.
Said 5.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
You somewhat muted, Archie.
No, I think it should be okay.
now, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
I'm gonna vote no.
So 2 to 1.
Yeah, I guess all in favor, aye.
Aye, yeah.
Thank you. So the next one, Brad, was the Field 6 restoration at Pipestone for a proposal for $15,000.
Yeah, we're trying to get ahead of some concerns here at Field 6 to provide the town with the funds to do some restoration work at Field 6, which received extensive additional use this past fall. Heavy use from high school, heavy use from youth sports. And we had closed Field 7 because it was showing signs of wear and tear as well. The fall is the best time of year to do this type of work, to grow grass, to give it a rest. This season, we are trying to only schedule practices on Field 6. Field 6 is the middle field in the little bowl area there. The wear and tear is largely down the center of the field, with heavy use in front of the goal boxes for the soccer nets as well as the lacrosse goals. One of the items driving this is just the big costs associated with fertilizer and seed and labor right now. I'm not sure to what extent the town will self-perform this work, but it's a placeholder because we know this work will be needed in the fall.
Well, I mean, it seems to me that, if we're gonna have the fields, we need to maintain them. We need to do what's needed to keep them up. Who will actually do the work, Brad?
The work would be the actual scope of work, as I see it, would be developed by the town's field consultant. The management plan requires a field consultant to be retained every year, every season, to evaluate the turf and design a treatment regime from weed and seed to different types of whatever amendments that are required. We would lean on, I forget the name of the firm. We've been using them for Osborne, or thank you, Osborne Organics, yeah. And then and that would be that's a consultant to the Department of Public Works who manages that. designing the IFB would be, in close coordination with DPW. They're the management entity at Pipestave, and typically they self-perform a lot of things. I think aeration, I know overseeding, I know fertilizer, fertilizing, mowing.
So is field maintenance not within like your operating budget or the DPW field budget?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think we've been moving in the right direction to getting bachelor under the supervision of DPW. It's when I first started, the two seem to be siloed based on PNR's ownership of bachelor.
But
I can't really speak.
This is a pipe stand though, isn't it?
Correct. And ever since Pipestave was created, my understanding is DPW has always been the management entity. I know Wayne spent quite a bit of time in Treasure fixing the pumps in one of the irrigation wells this past summer. They're definitely there. DPW, that is.
Yeah, and that's under the Mill Pond and Pipe State Management Plan that specifies that. Brad, did the 15,000, did you review that with Wayne? Is he agreeable that this is the right amount?
I wouldn't say that we've had in-depth discussions over the actual value. I do know that it'll need additional inputs, whether it's more or less. Not being a field turf specialist, I can't really speak to the exact scope that's required. We do know that we're resting it, and we do know that it's that in the fall it's the best time to apply seed, to do starter, whether we're dethatching. That's all TBD right now. But it's a modest sum that we wouldn't have otherwise.
And so when you said that you're not sure if it might be more or less, if it turns out that it's more, what?
I don't think that it's gonna. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be more. I don't think it's gonna be more. I think it's a pretty good budget, and I think, not speaking for Wayne, I think a lot of this that the town could self-perform and already does self-perform. It's just the fall is the best time of the year to grow grass and get this stuff established. The overnight temps are cool, generates the moisture. You're not competing with warm weather grasses and weeds. So that center line or the stripe that everyone sees, if you were walk out there today, you'd see it. And I think 6 was closed probably. I don't know. It's pre-pandemic, so it's probably closed maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It just needs to be rested and receive additional inputs. I'd say every 4 to 5 years. And a lot of this is driven because we closed 7, because 7 we were really concerned about 7. That's the bigger one, but 7 looks like it's in great shape right now.
So is
and
there
then and then the bigger perspective here is I'm sorry, Wendy, for talking over you, is that once the high school's done, like they're not there anymore. They're not up at Pipestave using those rectangles, which will hypothetically reduce the level of use dramatically, unless the town has an uptick in youth sports taking that early practice slot, which may happen. I know when I was a coach, it was kind of nice in the fall to like practice at 4 and be done by 5:30, especially when the sun is setting early. That would mean additional revenue for the town because the high school didn't pay. But that's just one thing that I would note is on the horizon, the level of use from the high school, and I would add probably heavy use, bigger kids. It's going to be used hard, particularly during the lacrosse season. That use is coming off. So It's also increased pretty much big time because of the high school construction. So that meant high school sports was flexed to pipe stave, and we bore that burden. But apparently it's going to be beautiful at the middle high school. And, you know, if you had kids at that wonderful school, you would be really happy, and they would be really happy and feel good about themselves.
So Brad, is there an overall field management plan? Like which fields get rested? This seems like a random amount and the scope's not really tight. I mean, I would rather see like an overall plan that this fits into.
That's fine. Let's just drop it then. I don't really, I don't feel too passionate about it. If it's the will of the select board not to bring it forward, I'm happy to withdraw it.
I'm just asking the question.
It's our recommendation.
I make a motion to approve this warrant.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
So the final item is the fence along fields 5 and 6. Wayne secured this quote from Olympic Fencing. I believe it's a vendor in town who actually did the original installation. The vendor said that when this was installed, it was strongly required that a residential grade fence mesh be used, which is a more narrower gauge of fence and less durable. Won't withstand the use that is happening adjacent to it. I'm not sure the background as to why that was. He also said that the posts are pinned, which means it could all be removed. Those posts aren't sunk; they're just pinned to something that's shallowly buried in the ground. In any event, the fence really isn't serving the function it's designed to perform. Particularly along field 5, the bottom of that fence rolls up, has rolled up, and the bottom 18 inches, 12 to 18 inches, there's a gap. So balls roll under, and it's a big issue for lacrosse in particular. Going down that hillside chasing balls. I don't know how many balls are shagged by lacrosse players, but definitely a lot by soccer. The other thing that was happening is the way that fence, since the fence is so, designed to be light in the landscape, kids were bouncing up against it, which my understanding, this is all just what people say, that caused some of that issues of the fence rolling up at the bottom. The fact of the matter is that there isn't even a bottom rail on the bottom of that fence to attach the mesh to anyway. So rolling up was inevitably going to happen. So Wayne ran point on coordinating with the fence company on pricing this out.
Brad, I took a quite a long look at that a couple of weeks ago. Totally agree. The bottom of it is a disaster.
And I guess part of the plan is to add piping to the bottom of the fence. So is that right?
I defer to Wayne. I mean, Wayne's,
I don't know. Yeah, because we talked with Wayne about it, but a heavier grade of a commercial grade of the chain link is one of the things they wanted to do too.
Yeah.
Reuse the posts, but I think get rid of the existing chain link.
Right. Yeah, and if money were no object, we'd be out here asking for a concrete mow strip so that the weeds don't grow up. Quite a bit of man time, some labor hours are used weeding the weeds that grow up, but that's a difficult site to get concrete truck too. Probably not really appropriate for that setting either.
I want to do it before you upgraded Field 6 too.
But it's original. I mean, to whenever the fields were installed in the early 2000s, I guess. So the town has definitely gotten its money's worth for this existing fence.
Yeah. All right. Anybody want to make a motion?
Sure, I move to support Article 34.
Second.
Third. All in favor or any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
So I'm not sure if we have people here to speak to any of the other articles. What I had said before Brad started was it's really anything that you haven't yet recommended is fair game. And you know what I would say is if there's something with a sponsor, obviously water, as you know, that's going to be 2 weeks from tonight. But if there's something that either the fire chief or police chief, who's the same person, or DPW director is sponsored, you know, and you have real questions, let's, you know, we'll bring them in next time and they can speak to that. But there's still a number of articles that haven't yet been.
Yeah, I didn't bring my score sheet. Do you know which ones have been?
Well, so this, you know, page, whatever page this is of the packet, where's the page number?
In the overall packet, it's oh yeah, where is it? It's
But this is the attachment, right? The second.
Yeah, well, so it's in two places. It's in the overall articles packet, but the actual score sheet for item C in the main open session packet.
Oh, okay.
It looks like I forgot to put in page numbers, but it's, you know, it's
Okay.
early, it's like page 8 or 9. I didn't, you know, what I put in the heading select board may or may not be current. I didn't have time to go back through my notes, and so there, you know, you might look and see some of those and say, oh, we already voted that. I got to work with Jim and Rebecca and just get those blanks filled in.
Okay.
I can tell you the FinCom column is complete and accurate as shown. Because this is really put together for their process, and I thought
okay.
I'd drop it in your packet just as kind of a, yeah, like you said, a scorecard, Wendy.
So the zoning bylaw recodification, are we ready to vote on that?
I have.
Unless, I don't know if any of the other residents in attendance are here for specific articles or not, or if they're just here to learn what's happening.
Okay.
So I guess the question is anybody here for a particular article, and anybody who's attending the Zoom call?
We have a David Detmold with his hand up.
Yeah, I understood that there might be a chance to speak to you regarding the petition that we handed in, and I'm afraid we handed it in a week or two late. So it's totally our fault regarding the flag and seal of Massachusetts, which is something that a number of towns and cities across the Commonwealth have brought up to town meeting vote, and 56 cities and towns have so far approved it. And we'd love it if you would be so kind not to take a position on the article itself, but to forgive us for our failure to meet the petitioned article deadline. We looked on the town website and could not, find that date. And Pat Skibby brought it in and was told that we were about a week too late, even though we had gathered the signatures back in October of last year. So in the spirit of the democratic process, if you would be so kind as to allow it to appear on the warrant so that the town meeting could have its will, that would be wonderful. And
so yeah, this is on for tonight. Now is definitely a good time to bring it up, but it's listed as item 4, as this is a petition article, so that is part of the board's meeting materials. And Yeah, Jim had talked with me when this had come in. It was after the warrant closed. So it's really up to the board, but I see there would be two options. One would be to bring it forward as non-binding resolution, which would not require reopening the warrant. It would be non-binding, but the nature of the question is non-binding anyway. In order to get it on as an article, as you know, the board would need to reopen the warrant, which would involve putting that on a future agenda to reopen the warrant, add it to the warrant, and then close the warrant. So that's obviously an option that you'd have as well.
So adding it as a non-binding resolution, we could do that now, tonight, and it would effectively, is that right? And it would effectively do the same thing because it's non-binding.
It's non-binding and it would cost the town no money, except for a few stamps to forward it to our state legislators. Yep.
But that would be non-binding, it would be, so it's not clear to me when you say a non-binding resolution. It would be only at this meeting, Angus, or it would be at town meeting presented as a non-binding resolution?
So I've definitely heard Casey say on a number of times that a resolution is always in order. You can always put a resolution on the floor of town meeting. It is not binding and it's not customarily been part of the FinCom booklet and the presentation. I don't believe that's set in stone. I think if this board wanted to include it in the FinCom booklet, I'm sure the FinCom would be happy to oblige, put it in as an appendix and maybe add something, in the booklet to say this is a non-binding resolution. I think in some cases resolutions are received, they're not received far enough in advance to even do that. But since this one would be, you could do that. And that would give it the same visibility as the articles. It wouldn't be on the posted warrant, but it would still be on the FinCom, in the FinCom booklet and part of the materials posted to the town website and elsewhere in the run up to town meeting.
I like that option better. I don't really want to open the warrant. I think that sets a bad precedent unless it's, absolutely necessary.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, so David, if it was something that was critical to the operation of the town, then, we would probably, we might be open to opening the warrant, but I think effectively the non-binding resolution does the same thing as having an article. I mean, maybe it doesn't carry quite the same weight. Maybe, but depending upon how the legislature responds, I doubt that anything's going to happen in the next 6 months. There is a special town meeting in the fall, and of course, next year there's another annual and special town meeting. So, this, I think, functionally would do pretty much the same thing.
And I'm totally in accord with you that opening the warrant might be more trouble than is required right now. We were at fault for not bringing it to you in time. And if you'd allow it to go forward as a non-binding resolution, I think the will of the town meeting will still be expressed positively or negatively on the matter. And that would be satisfactory.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I find it, the timing is interesting in that although this is indigenous peoples as opposed to, people of color, it is Black History Month. So, it's somewhat complementary in terms of, human rights type issues.
I have an objection to any of these types of articles in town meeting. That's just the town meeting is a place for the basically the fiscal bill paying ability of the town to take place. And I just don't like setting precedent with having lots of these things detract from what we're really trying to accomplish. I don't want to encourage these things coming to town meeting. It has nothing to do with the issue at hand. I just don't like any of these kind of just like non-binding resolutions because they could they could cripple the town meeting if we encourage them to happen. That's just my personal feeling. Because we could be voting on all sorts of stuff.
True. And I'm in total sympathy with the overall sentiment you're expressing, Archie, but in this particular instance, the town of West Newbury does not have a choice whether to fly the state flag on the town meeting stage, like every other city in town. We're forced to. That's part of state law. And so here's an opportunity for us to at least speak to that at a time when, the governor and the legislature have set up a special commission to review the matter. We're in a historic process of reviewing a symbol that we've lived with now for 140 years, that West Newbury has to, fly on its own town meeting stage. So to that extent, and only to that extent, I think any town or city in the Commonwealth could weigh in at this point and effectively speak to this process that's going on across the state.
Yeah, Archie, the other thing I'd note is that, this is my 27th year living in town. Obviously, there are a lot of people who lived here a lot longer. This is only the second time I can recall there being a non-binding resolution that at this point might, because we haven't voted, but might be brought to town meeting. So if it's a slippery slope, it's nearly a flat surface.
Right.
Angus, what would the process be for, if we did move forward with this, for getting the FinCom to put it in the booklet? Is it just a request?
I think it would just be a request.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what I would do coming out of, depending on how the board's direction coming out of tonight's meeting, but if a majority supports bringing it forward to town meeting, I'd send FinCom an email and then suggest that at their next meeting, not this one, this Wednesday, but that, and David, if it does go forward, that would be the 15th, because they're meeting next Wednesday. The 8th is on the school budget, so it would be 15th. And if they're inclined, they would invite, the petitioner to hear, and they could vote a recommendation or not. And then I think it would really just be a courtesy. It is their booklet, but I can't imagine that they wouldn't.
Okay.
If you ask them to do that.
So our motion is whether to allow this to be on. I mean, it's not on the warrant, so.
It's not on the warrant.
So what are we actually voting on?
I would think that, unless there's a majority on this board that would actually support approving it, I think, I would think the request would be, is there a vote to support bringing this to town meeting with a favorable recommendation? And if there is, then we can do what we can to make sure it gets, public awareness leading up to that meeting.
All right, I move that we bring this petition forward to town meeting with a favorable recommendation from the select board.
I'll second. Any other further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, David.
All right, so David, if you could please send, I think maybe, have you been in touch with the town clerk?
Pat Skibby has been in touch with the town clerk.
If whomever is the primary contact could just send an email to the town clerk and to me. And I think Jim has that info. It's just, he's out sick tonight. So I do know when this came in, he talked to me about it, and we agreed that the two options were what I had laid out tonight. I just want to make sure I have the right point of contact, so that once the FinCom, if they do, put this on a future agenda, that I can get you the date. I think it would probably be the 15th, but that's not up to me. That's up to the FinCom and ultimately up to the chair to set the agenda.
I will be in touch with Pat tomorrow, and one of us will get right back to you. And thank you for taking so much time on the agenda for this minor item. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we were actually still looking at, articles to,
So does it make sense to just go in order of the ones that we haven't approved yet? Rather than jumping around?
yeah, so we had, so we haven't approved, there's, so that's interesting, the FinCom, so, okay, I'm reading this wrong.
You know, it is possible, you know, one or more of these you might have already voted, and I didn't.
Okay.
Draw the blanks, so.
Okay, so school stabilization, I'm just looking at the ones that aren't filled in, school stabilization, we had arrived at a
You
number.
did, you did.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, that was zone, I was looking at it wrong, yeah, my eyes didn't track across, right, so. Zoning bylaw recodification, that's what you would ask
Yeah.
for, Wendy.
Yeah,
Yeah. You know, I haven't gone through it in detail because there's a lot there.
it's just reorganizing.
Right,
There's no
right.
content change.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And,
That was the way it was originally talked
Yeah,
about.
and he had done a similar project in Groveland and Newbury.
Right,
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's great. It's a great service to the town to have everything
Yeah.
easily accessible.
yeah. Archie, do you have any thoughts on it?
I thought we voted yes on that.
Not sure.
I'm kind of hamstrung here without
Without Jim.
clerk and, you know, with all the other.
Okay, but,
stuff.
okay, I'll make a motion to approve the recodification, the zoning bylaw.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye,
Thank you.
just bang them out.
Okay,
right.
all right, next one, okay, yeah, so somebody's like the septic loan revolving fund, we did vote on that, didn't we?
No, we didn't do that.
You did that, okay, well, I guess let's do that. Somebody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I move to appropriate $10,364 from the septic loan revolving fund.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
I guess what we're doing is we're referring as opposed to.
Rick, I can't go back and forth to the other item because then I lose the Zoom. So just
Okay,
give me
so-
in slight synopsis what we're voting on. Okay.
okay, so the next one is to allocate and or reserve community preservation fund, annual revenues. That's a no-brainer.
Okay.
Can I make a motion? I know normally the chair doesn't, but I make a motion to that effect.
All right, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Sawmill Brook, I think we'll pass on that one for now. Correct? Or does anybody,
Why?
well, because we've still got some work going on, or,
Well, that's just for the grant
That's just the
application.
grant.
okay.
So seems like.
I think we might have approved that one too, actually, but
Okay.
I feel like the transfer to affordable housing, I thought you voted that one. I'm sorry, I just.
I agree with you. I think we did. It's just not filled in here, so I think we did a lot that meeting, and I guess you lose track of what you worked on and what you haven't. Page full security cameras, funding for cemetery cleanup, we did that.
I'm getting mixed up now, having sat through the FinCom discussion.
Yeah.
I'm having the same
No,
problem.
we didn't-
I've been at the
we
CIC
didn't
meetings
do-
and stuff.
Rick, we did not
Yeah.
do paid school. No,
We didn't do, the security cameras, we did not? Okay.
no.
Okay,
right.
okay, so the article, Archie's page school security cameras at a cost of $8,300 requested by the DPW director.
Right, I read that. I'm good.
Okay, I move that we support Article 30, the total of $8,300 for paid school security cameras.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Funding for cemetery cleanup, did we do that? I thought we had,
I don't think we did.
okay. Oh, okay, here.
Do you think we did?
FinCom.
I know, I think back when they presented it a while back, you expressed
Yeah,
support, but I don't.
yeah, okay.
I don't
Okay.
think we voted it. No.
Okay,
All right, I move to support funding for cemetery cleanup, a total of $4,150. Article 35.
second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. invasive species management, well, we were waiting for Michelle.
Yeah, we will,
right?
yeah, we'll have, I know Michelle and also Graham Batchelor are
Okay.
planning to join.
Okay,
Maybe closer to 8:30, we'll see.
okay, transfer funds for pensions, items, fix FY 24 max amounts that may be spent from revolving funds.
So the
That's, so
revolving
that's
funds-
great, that's in gray here.
It's in gray because it's on for FinCom for this
Okay,
Wednesday.
okay,
And there was some new information from the original packet that I had put into this, which you could be forgiven for having overlooked because you got done, hundreds of pages for tonight's meeting. But the revolving funds, I had not initially, so I'll just give a little background and whether you want to vote it tonight or not, but just so you know the new information. I had not initially done an article request form because I felt like this is so kind of boilerplate, we do it every year, but then I said, you know what, I'll do one because we have newer FinCom members. So what you have here, this article request form for number 21 is newly written, and what I did is just basically give some background really for the FinCom of what revolving funds are and how they can function. And then I put in proposed amounts, which in prior drafts that you've seen, those had been blanked out. So I worked with the town accountant and she ran reports on the prior 3 years and year to date of revenues and expenses from each of these. And I've put in the amounts that I think seem to make sense based on the financial activity we've seen. So for the summer rec revolving funds, 75,000 would be unchanged from fiscal 23. The library fines and penalties revolving fund, 10,000, also unchanged. Police vehicle revolving fund, 20,000, unchanged from the current year. Pipe Stave, Mill Pond, care and maintenance revolving fund, 5,000, unchanged from this year. Electric vehicle charging stations revolving fund, 10,000, unchanged from this year. And the curbside collection, trash, recycling, and food waste in the current year was 50,000. This is the first year that was in effect. And based on the activity, I think that is more than is needed. So I would recommend that at 30,000. And then within this article,
Angus,
yeah.
what in all my time with the town, I've never heard it. What is that?
So that one was, that's a good question. I'll tell you what I know and I'll tell you what I don't know. So that was added last year at town meeting. That was not part of the bylaws. That was added to the town bylaws last spring. And it was added to accompany the shift to the automated pickup.
it's for extra containers, right?
It's really for extra containers. And so
Oh,
my understanding, and I think all of you were on the board last year will remember this, my distinct understanding was that this was going to be a net zero account. That if you as a resident wanted a second barrel, rather than you paying, Casella, you would pay, or I guess it would be Mellow, rather than you paying Mellow, you'd pay the revolving fund, the town would buy the barrel because the town owns and then give you the barrel. So I
thought it was dollar for dollar.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So when I looked at the town accountant's report, so I sent an email to Jenny on Saturday night because, I had nothing else to do. So, and I said, gee, what's going on with this revenue? Because look at FY 22, it netted 15.5 and then FY 23 year to date, it's up, almost $7,000 revenue above expenses. So I sent Jenny a note Saturday, and I said, this, seems odd. Where's the money coming from? And are we sure that there's not monies being receipted to this revolving fund that in fact should be receipted to the general fund as, fees or other, and so she got back to me and she said she had noticed this a while back. And at that time had talked to the health staff and to the treasurer collector, and that there had at that point been some funds that had been, because what happens is the health office to do their revenue turnover. They say what account it should go into, and the treasurer collector receipts are there. There were some funds that had been receipted to this that really should have been general fund revenue. So at that time, the town accountant had done journal entries to reassign those revenues. So I did meet with the treasurer earlier today about this issue. And I asked her to take a look at the turnover reports and to see if she felt or if we felt that those are properly receipted to the revolving fund. I can't understand why we'd be running surpluses. So I would actually not recommend action on this because she was gonna look at this and if we had a question that we were gonna then bring it to health. So that's something that I really just found on Saturday. As something that I want to look at closely, but
How's the FinCom gonna work with that then?
well, I think I'm gonna ask them to table
Yeah,
that
yeah,
because I just don't think.
okay.
we
I mean,
have-
Angus,
I
if,
just- I told
Angus,
Kate I want to have an answer by Wednesday evening. I might have, it might all be fine.
Yeah, okay,
And if it's all fine, great, but I don't know that. I mean, it's all fine. Look, if things are received in the wrong account,
right,
that's a journal entry. It's easy to fix. It's
Yeah.
not a problem. It's a newly
Angus,
created.
is
account,
it
so
partially money from, I don't know, paper or glass or instead of the barrels?
from recycling?
Yeah.
Revenues from selling recycling?
That was not the intent. I did reread the bylaw today with Caitlin, that establishes this. And, you know, I think it could benefit from improved clarity, because, you know, so it's a conversation we have to have with health. And we, you know, unless there's some washout tomorrow with snow, we'll have the conversation tomorrow. And if there is a washout, we'll have that conversation Wednesday.
Okay,
If you think about the numbers though, it isn't, if we look at FY 22, you got $17,000 there. But that's actually, I don't know what the barrels cost, but say they cost $100. If they cost $100, that's only 170 barrels. So it is theoretically possible that it could be that much money.
Well, except they would have used that same revenue to then buy the barrels.
Right. So I don't know.
Expenses. So it really doesn't make sense. A revolving fund is not intended to be running a surplus.
Yeah.
Certainly not a
Yeah.
significant surplus. So that's one that's, you know, that's kind of new information as I was assembling the packet, I was like, that doesn't.
Something isn't lining up there. No.
Yeah,
okay, all right, well, we won't do that tonight.
yeah, so I would pass over to revolving funds, but
I just have a kind of a more general question on the
Yep.
library.
Yes.
It's 10,000 is the amount, but I mean,
it's way too
historic,
high.
yeah. I mean, is
I
there any
just-
benefit to reducing it or?
There really isn't.
Okay.
There's a limit. Your total bottom line combined revolving funds authorizations can't exceed some percentage of your operating budget. We're so far below that.
Yeah,
So
okay,
there really isn't a problem,
Okay.
and it becomes a perception issue of like why it's not a problem.
yeah.
Like
okay.
we're nowhere near our limit of
Mm-hmm.
authorizing revolving funds.
Okay,
Yeah, and same with the mill pond. I mean, that's been a static amount
yeah,
for years. That was actually created since I got here to account for money that had been on the books, but not kind of, I don't know, there's a backstory to that, but that same $5,200 you see in mill pond has been the same that it's been for, actually, since before I got here. We just created this as a vehicle so that it could at
Yeah.
least account for it. And when the time comes, that is funding that's available for mill pond.
Mhm.
That is probably money that you might not have known was there.
yeah, okay.
And what do you know? Here's Michelle just joining.
Hey, Wendy, are you using your charger? So,
Yeah, are you like desperate?
Well, I'm not quite desperate, but I'll be, if you're, yeah, I can,
I have half.
yeah, oh, okay, I have like 18%, so, and a dim screen.
But I'm plugged in over here.
I'll plug it in the wall, I'll grab it and plug it in the wall.
All right.
If you don't mind. Thanks.
Oh, can you reach it?
This one, I think I unplugged it.
Thank you.
Oh, it's hot.
These computers are getting late in life.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll make a
Mine is
note
almost
as well.
fully charged.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, but it's just in the last couple of weeks, it's like fading.
I'll make a
Thank you.
note to add revolving funds for, the 13th.
Great, thanks.
One thing, just while we're on that, you may wonder why, that's not every last revolving fund, because there are a couple of others. And the answer is that it depends on what section of the Mass General Law they were adopted under. So for instance, the PEG funds are effectively a revolving fund, but they are accounted for differently. And they need a separate article, as we have on as a placeholder. And then also was it the Park and Rec revolving fund. We have the summer rec, but the Park and Rec, if you look at our chart of accounts, was adopted under like a slightly different section of Mass General Law. And that one, I checked it with Jenny last year, because I said, why, I was trying to align the bylaw with the list in the chart of accounts. And
Yeah,
those that don't appear were adopted on a different section of Mass General Law. And long story short, the Park and Rec revolving fund, specifically in the Mass General Law, does not require further appropriation. So once funds are in the Park and Rec revolving fund, they are under the oversight of the Park and Rec Commission with the approval of the town manager, is how it reads. And they don't need town meeting to annually reauthorize. So there's just these little nuances on things that,
okay.
Okay, thanks. Okay, structure note.
so we are joined by Michelle. I know she had a meeting earlier this
Oh,
evening,
great,
and so
great.
she had said it'd probably be about 8:15, 8:30. So I don't know, Michelle, are we expecting Graham, in which case we can hold off on the invasive management article?
Can you hear me? Nope. Hello.
Yeah,
Okay, excellent. Let me send him a text message. I think he was gonna hop on.
Okay, so let's give him a couple of minutes, and if he's gonna join us, we don't wanna get ahead of him.
Okay.
Thanks.
well, we can keep rolling, I guess, for a minute. FY 24, so we have all the water.
All the water, and then you have some capital articles. I would recommend holding off on those until the capital improvements committee.
Yeah.
We'll have their report 2 weeks from tonight. They meet, I believe, a week from Thursday.
I think all of the water ones that don't have a total, I don't feel like we can.
No,
No,
yeah,
no.
yeah, and they've been invited in
Okay,
for the 13th and have confirmed their availability.
okay.
So even the one that does have a total, the water valves, hydrants, water mains, even that we should, we might as well get them all when they're here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Angus, can you scroll down for me on the,
yeah, sorry, Roger, yeah. Actually, Archie, I'm gonna switch over to a different screen. This is really the scorecard that we're referring to. It's a smaller font, but this has everything on one sheet.
right, this was the not up to date, I think.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know if you want to talk about the police cruiser purchase, number 28, or if you want to wait till Dwyer can speak to that.
It'd probably be best if we waited until Mike was here.
Okay,
And I mean, he'll be here anyway for the fire pickup truck replacement.
yeah. And
Will he
obviously,
be here at the next meeting? Is that?
I will confirm that with him, but
Okay.
that would be ideal.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously 15, the Dole Place, we're not gonna be ready on tonight, snow and ice, we always do that late, depending on what the number is. The PEG funds, the Cable Advisory Committee is meeting this Thursday at 6, and I've sent the information to the chair. I gotta get that around to the other committee members too, but to get their recommendation on that. I think the pipe safe crosswalk, that ties right in with item K on tonight's agenda. And I think that's gonna be a really interesting discussion. I don't know if you want to get into it now or maybe wait till after the invasive management. But I think the issue is what can we get done with the $30,000 earmark, which has to be expended by the end of the fiscal year? And what amount might you like to propose to town meeting to advance pedestrian safety planning?
And that can be used for the design work, such as was proposed by TAC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The solar bylaw amendments have a public hearing with the planning board next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. So I would recommend awaiting a recommendation until something comes out of public hearing. The wetlands bylaw, I know that the Concom, and of course Michelle's here as well, but the Concom will meet a week from tonight and is expected that night to, if they are going to, recommend something that would come out a week from tonight, that we'd have something proposed. So obviously it would be premature to get much into that.
Right, so.
I mean, I'd like to know if I'd like to be able to see something on that ahead of time. Is it going to be produced? It's been a year and a half that it's not, I haven't seen it.
Do you know if Concom intended to present anything? Were they're going to present anything to the select board?
We would invite them to do that. I haven't specifically reached out on that because they haven't, referred something out yet.
Right, okay.
But yeah, that would be the expectation.
And there has to be time for a public hearing on that. So, time is moving.
Right. A public hearing isn't legally required for a town bylaw, but this board has been consistent, and I believe the Concom is aware of this board's expectation that a public hearing would be held, even though it is not, unlike a zoning amendment, it is not required, but it's definitely advisable.
So there's really nothing else for us to vote on.
I don't know, yeah, the solar feasibility, I think we want to continue to leave that on as a placeholder, at least for the time being, another couple of weeks.
Oh, no, actually, I'm sorry. No, we're done. The Energy Sustainability Committee met about a week ago and thought that it made sense to go ahead with the proposal that we received.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
That's
so,
great. Okay. For that one.
and we need to get a notification to Wayne, just telling him, and there's one thing we would like added to it, but it's to the proposal, but it's a piece of work that they probably have to do anyway in order to give us the proposal. We just want a spreadsheet that allows us to, the spreadsheet that they probably use in generating the economics.
Okay, so the supplemental funding article, which shown as 36, could come off.
Yeah, that can go away.
Right. Archie, you good with that?
Yeah, fine.
All right, so I'll notify the FinCom that one's off the list.
Did Wayne talk about, I can't remember. Did Wayne did talk about the snowplow, right?
The sidewalk?
Yes.
Yeah, I get jumbled. I know he talked about it with capital improvements.
Right, yeah, I've heard about it with CIC and capital improvements. I don't recall if I've heard about it here.
I mean, my recommendation on anything capital, since their report is due at your meeting 2 weeks from tonight, is to wait until they've offered their, litmus test and then make your votes following that. So, yeah, I think we've, other than, the invasive management, which we'll get right to with Graham and Michelle here, I think we've pretty well done what can be done tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And Graham's here, so. Graham, Michelle, hi, how you doing?
Hey there. Good, how are you?
So we're looking at the invasive species management. article right now interested what you have to say. Obviously, I've heard it before and
So, and just before you guys start, so again, I know I threw a lot of paper at the board over the weekend. They got a couple of different packets totaling, I don't know, some hundreds of pages. So just in the article packet was 95% stuff you'd already seen. This was one where there was new information that was handed out at FinCom last week. So I did go ahead and add that to the packet, repost to the website here with item 38. You already had seen the article request form, but there was a additional backup that actually I'm not seeing in here. It was in the FinCom one. But there was like a 14-page narrative. So anyhow, I'm not going to find it now. So, do you guys want to speak to this?
Sure.
Michelle, you ready? You ready? Shot out of a cannon again? You ready to go?
Yeah, I'll go around two on it. So as the select board is obviously aware, the town allocated funds for last summer for 2 invasive plant species interns to do GIS mapping of invasive species on town-owned property. And then that funding was approved again in the amount of $8,000 this past fall for this upcoming summer for 2 interns again. And I think the focus that I've heard is that, you know, the town would like those interns to be more engaged with management. So I am planning to, you know, kind of revamp that internship program for the summer a little bit to do more management and continue mapping. With that said, there are a lot more parcels in West Newbury that need a lot more management for successfully managing the invasives than what 2 people can do by hand. So this article seeks $20,000 to kind of pick up where the interns will leave off at the end of this upcoming summer. And that targets 3 parcels in West Newbury for management from a professional company. And so that management would likely include mechanical invasive management. So mowing, things like that, which the interns won't have access to. And then also the applications of herbicides approved for use near wetlands, which obviously the interns won't be able to do. The parcels, the main one that we're focusing on is the Cherry Street Conservation Area that is near the reservoir. And it's one that was picked because there has been a lot of work underway there already by volunteers with 2 invasive plant removal days done. But a lot of the invasives there need a little bit more treatment than what we can do. Specifically, there's a lot of Phragmites in the wetlands there that border the reservoir in an area that's been being mowed. And there's lots of really small multiflora rose and autumn olive. And so the hope is that a professional management company could present to us a management plan that they can get done within that $20,000 price range. And that would include really targeted treatments of, you know, maybe mowing the Phragmites and then targeted use of herbicides. We proposed 2 other areas as well in town in case, you know, they tell us that they can get that done for $5,000. We have 2 other parcels already picked out where management could be continued. And that's the fields at the corner of Indian Hill Street and Middle Street, and then also along the trail easement for River Bend. I can go into more details on anything. That's a pretty broad level overview.
So Michelle, will you have actual quotes by town meeting?
Yes, so I have held off on sending out, I just need to send out an RFP to 3 companies. I've confirmed that with Wayne for procurement. And I just didn't want to send that out and have people rush to put together, you know, a proposal if it wasn't something that seemed like it would get endorsed by select board and then come to be on the meeting warrant.
Okay. I mean, I think this is a great project. My only hesitation is that we don't have a scope and, you know, a firm cost. But if that's going to be available for town meeting, that's good then.
Okay.
I Rick, can I say something?
Please, yeah.
Oh, I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm all in favor of it. I just, I find myself in the odd position of being the most, I don't know, environmentally worried here of the group, but the idea of trying herbicides right next to the reservoir concerns me. What do we know about the long-term ramifications of these particular, particular chemicals? How long do they last in the environment? I would like to know a little bit more before. That would be the first place that I would tackle with chemical treatments right near the reservoir, in an area that slopes down towards the reservoir too.
So there are herbicides that are approved specifically for wetland resource areas that don't get intaked into the groundwater, and I can provide more information on them. It's really two main herbicides. I believe it's triclophor and then a version of glyphosate. Newburyport would be looped in on it as well. It is, one of their main water supplies, so they would get to review it. I included that in the scope. The Concom would review it for permitting as well. So it wouldn't just be, willy-nilly. These problems of having invasive species up against, water resource areas, be it a reservoir or a surface water like a river that's a drinking water supply source, they need to be managed, and herbicides are really
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
That, but how much do we know about? You're talking about it in next to wetlands, but this isn't wetlands. This is actually drinking water. That's just even a higher level of something we should be concerned about.
So there is a permitting that will need to get done through the state, and the state will review it, and the state will determine if what's being proposed is in compliance with what they've determined is safe for use near a reservoir.
Michelle, who brings that through permitting? Is that something that's part of the vendor scope, or is that something that happens prior to engagement of the vendor, or how does that work?
I think we would need to have the vendor scope to see specifically what herbicides they're proposing for use in those areas and what the application rate and process would be. And then I think it's as simple as sending it to the state for the state's review on that. I don't think there is a very formalized procedure as to who brings that through the state. I'm hoping, to cut down on costs with this and have all of the costs associated with actually go towards the management rather than permitting. It would be something that I could send over to the state, for the state to review and hopefully approve.
Okay, well, you had referred to Newburyport also reviewing, so is that concurrent with when it goes to the state, or prior to it going to the state in terms
I
of
send it concurrently. So it's more just, I don't want to say just a courtesy, because protecting drinking water is more than just a courtesy. However, kind of following through their management plan, they ask to approve any herbicide use near their drinking water sources. So I'd want to send that over to them as well so they could look at it.
Anything else, Archie?
No, I don't. I just don't. It seems like we're doing a pilot project, but which I'm completely in favor of, except for the herbicide aspect of it, and we're doing it in the most sensitive place in the town. I mean, I'd rather have a few phragmites than unknown chemicals that we might find out 30 years from now have ramifications.
Michelle, maybe it would be worth you know, when you're able, or when whoever the vendor is that was ultimately chosen, or perhaps the vendors could provide information in their responses to your RFQ or RFP to include information specific to the herbicides that they proposed, including, you know, whatever information is available regarding toxicity and breakdown products. I mean, I know that's information that's readily available. You know, probably through various sources, you know, including the EPA.
Yeah, I can absolutely request that. I wanted them to include methodologies, obviously including that in their proposals to be able to bring it through permitting. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great, thanks. Anybody want to make a motion?
Yep, I moved.
Yeah, and just, I had sworn that, you know, this supplemental packet, you know, that Michelle had handed out at FinCom last week, I had sworn that was in here, and it's kind of racking my brain as to what, you know, I thought I put it in, so it doesn't sound like, I'm seeing it's not.
It's not here, but I saw it as part of the thing.
Yeah, so, but I want to apologize for that, because I don't know how that got overlooked, because we got the information, and I thought
There were only 10 million other things.
I know, but still, I gotta clarify with FinCom, because I think I even specifically said it wasn't there. I don't know how, I don't know if there was, if I managed to send around not quite final draft or what, because I feel like I put it in there, but I need to update that with the packet on the website so that it has all of that backup.
Okay. All right, I move that we support Article 38 for invasive species management, $20,000.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Nay.
Hey, Archie, what I'll do is I'm gonna, you know, I'll send around that packet, you know, that supplemental, and I think if you see anything in there or any subsequent information comes in that might make you reconsider, I would rather see that happen rather than, and if it doesn't change your opinion, that's fine too. But if it does, I just don't want to see a vote, you know, without having the complete backup in front of you. And again, I'll apologize for that. I had sworn I'd put it in there, but I see that I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was about a, you know, 14 or 15 page supplement that was submitted last Wednesday.
So, yeah, I mean, we can revisit this.
So, but for now, I've got the vote as 2-1, and I'll make that note.
I mean, I don't to just add. I know I don't want to. We got a lot to do. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. Just that. I don't know why that would. We have a lot of parcels with a lot of problems. Why don't we try it somewhere else instead of right next to the reservoir? That's all.
But we're not going to know what the impacts to drinking water are at other, you know, it's not like an example somewhere else is going to give us useful information for the reservoir.
No, I don't disagree with that, but there's always more. The longer something goes on, the more information comes out. We didn't 10 years ago, no one knew anything about PFAS. No one had ever even heard of it. So now it's a big deal. So just
yeah. I think in particular relative to the Phragmites, Archie, I think that the idea was that they're at a point where they're still controllable. They could still be, you know, the problem could still be reeled in there. That site was chosen, you know, for the volunteer work because of its high visibility. You know, it was a site specifically originally purchased because of its view shed and because of, you know, the aesthetic value of it. And you know, there's been substantial effort already put in there. So, you know, the thought was to try to finish with that site, you know, get that site fully under control, and point to that as an example. And I'm not ignoring, you know, your concern about or, you know, about the use of herbicides near the reservoir. what I expect is that it can be adequately explained and risk effectively minimized by, appropriate choice and methodology.
Okay, you have more confidence than I do, that's all.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm in this case, I'm glad that you're more conservative than me and this. That's great.
And
I
when
think-
I see that, when I see when I get some data, I'm willing to change my mind.
Great.
Okay, while we're on the, topic of potentially, relooking at things once more information. So I think on that one, we're all set. Michelle and Graham, you're welcome to stay, of course, but I think we're set on that article.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
So on the idea of looking, relooking at articles once they're already considered, which you may or may not do in the future. I did want to make you aware, I was asked to specifically make sure you were aware that when the FinCom took up the article on the pension liability stabilization, there was concern as to whether that was needed. And so the town accountant at the FinCom's request had done some supplemental analysis. I believe I sent that around to you all by email a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. And I had put that in this Wednesday's FinCom packet. I did talk to Archie about that. He felt we need to stay with the written town policy and correctly pointed out, which FinCom knows, that the pension liability stabilization can be used to offset, and let's say there was a big spike in the assessment next year, and you could do that to offset the tax rate impact. It's not something that relies on a future deficit or unfunded thing at the Essex level. But one of the FinCom members did want me to specifically ask if the select board would withdraw that. I talked to Archie. He said he had no intention of changing his vote, but I did say I would make the other board members aware. I don't think your intent is to withdraw it, but I just want to make sure you know that they expressed concern. I think you both maybe were at that meeting.
Yeah.
So if there's nothing further to say, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that was shared.
Yeah,
I would add that the discount rate that the Essex board factored in for their the liability essentially being paid off at I believe they said 2035 was 6.5%. And if anyone's looked at their retirement portfolios in the last couple of years, nobody's making 6.5 on their returns on their retirement portfolios in the last couple of years. So that's simply an estimate that we're going to be averaging 6.5% positive returns for the next whatever it is, 12 years. That's not necessarily the case. So I don't see any reason to not be conservative.
Yeah, I feel like the fact that it's consistent with an existing policy,
Yeah.
if we want to change the policy, then
That was my thought too, and that's where, we're in town meeting season. We're not in
Yeah.
we're not looking for
Right.
policies to update at this point. I mean,
Well-
actually we are, but not this one. We have other
line.
or front burner policies.
Yeah, but the other thing is that, so there is still 12 years to go. Before hopefully it's fully funded. And I understand what you're saying, Archie, about the assumptions about rates of return. At some point in the future, maybe 8 years from now, at which point probably none of us will be on this board, good chance. Can't speak for anybody, but, other than Archie, because we know. But, you know, at that point, maybe it would make sense, and at that point, it might even make sense to start, using the funds to, you know, pay an annual obligation.
You can do that.
But, right, but, yeah, I mean, I can see the point in continuing. I mean, I heard what was said at the FinCom meeting, and I, you know, thought about it, and I think it makes sense to stay on the current track for a while, and at some point, we'll probably want to use those funds to pay our annual obligation, to pay a portion of our annual obligation, when we're nearing that break even.
Well, there's also this, 5% retiree COLA that obviously wasn't built into their expense model. And if that ends up getting approved, that, Chuck Comptroller was clear that will go up at some point.
Yeah.
So I'll make FinCom aware, the model says they're fully funded. There's a lot of moving parts in this. So
Yeah.
I fully agree that we should stick with the written policy unless and until there's time to look closely at that, see that that's, but there's no harm in being conservative. You can use the funds in any given budget year. So anyhow.
Okay, thank
Point
you.
taken, yeah, thank you. So in the articles, beyond that, I don't think there's anything more on that item.
Okay.
Did you have any follow-up conversation with Wayne about the Emerald Ash Borer? Does he have any thoughts about maybe revising it, or is he just gonna?
I haven't had that conversation. I know that his intent in bringing this forward was to give the voters the choice.
Okay.
So, I think he'd be pleased with whatever outcome the voters
Yeah.
make, but I'll talk to him. He'll be back, before, I think he's gonna be at a future board meeting, maybe 2 weeks. I haven't confirmed that with him, so I'll check.
FinCom ended up 3-2-1, is that right?
Yeah, they were 3-2-1.
Or actually, it's 2-3-1.
Or 2-3-1, yeah, so not favorable. And Archie, you might not have seen this, but they.
2-3-1. I'm sorry, 2-3-1 down.
Yeah, down on the Emerald Ash, but they said that if it was the lower amount of 18,700 instead of the 60,000, that they would have been 3-2-1 in favor of doing basically the fewer treatments on fewer trees.
On the healthiest trees that have the best chance of it being successful. That was the concern.
So they wanted to do the best case scenario trees or the worst case scenario trees?
Best case.
Best case.
Just the best case.
Okay.
So if your board was to change that article amount, you would have a favorable FinCom recommendation, but assuming this board stands behind its vote of 60,180, that would be a 2-3-1 vote, not in favor by FinCom. In which case, let's say the 60,180 failed at town meeting, there could be an immediate follow-up motion of the lower amount, and perhaps that would pass.
My comment is, I think that we have to always remember that a lot of these trees are in places where they're going to be potentially roadside hazards or wire hazards. And so at a certain point, if these trees are all necrotic, they're gonna have to come down, and it costs more. It actually costs more per tree to cut them down than it does to treat them. People have to remember that.
Yeah, it sounds like for rough numbers, based on what Wayne has said, we're looking at roughly a 10-to-1 ratio. The cost to remove is, that's a rough number, but about 10 times the amount to remove the tree as to treat it. You have to treat it every 2 years. But, so what's that break even? Is it, at 20 years or something?
Yeah, like 200 versus
and which
200.
Rick,
you're totally right. 200 versus 2,000. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. For round numbers. Yeah.
Right.
When I'll work with either Jim when he's back in the office or work with Rebecca or both to get this scorecard kind of updated and fully reflective of both the votes you picked tonight as well as, we have kept current with the FinCom, but I haven't done as well with the select board. I have it in chicken scratch somewhere. I just didn't get into here.
But so we're still in pretty good shape in terms of the overall schedule, right?
I think we're in really good shape. Obviously, we've got, kind of a pig in the python coming our way with water. There's a lot of water articles on the coming our way. But like I said earlier, we did confirm with the Water Commission they'll be represented at the meeting 2 weeks from tonight. And as you know, they have a lot going on in addition to town meeting with the superintendent transition and the April 9th expiration of the temporary certification. And we're aware that the Water Commission's meeting tomorrow afternoon is going to be talking about contingency planning in the event that there's the licensing for the incoming superintendent doesn't go as they hope it will. So there's quite a lot going on, but Rick and I did meet with the chair and the incoming superintendent today, and they did confirm they are actively working to fill in those placeholder amounts for the articles, and they're aware of the timeline and when we need to receive that. The FinCom needs to receive that, so we are expecting to have that information for the packet on the 13th, and then FinCom 2 nights later on the 15th. You already addressed item D. Item E was really just schedule update. I think there might have been 1 or 2 budget numbers that changed a bit, but I'm just not, and that's, I think, in the FinCom packet, I've written a memo on that. The veterans changed a bit from what was in the budget you referred, and the Park and Rec. When I was putting this together in the last couple of days, I realized I had mistakenly over budgeted. I double counted on the Park and Rec. I had carried the wages twice. So anyhow, that's in here. I think what I'll do is just for your next meeting, I'll be a little more organized and have that to update your referred budget.
Okay.
So there are a couple of kind of minor things. I don't think did I talk to you guys about the COA, and that at my recommendation, at COA director's recommendation, we've reduced that proposed budget by 7,000 because 7,000 will be coming from the formula grant. So there have been a couple of numbers up, down, just natural through the FinCom process. So, rather than have a budget presented to town meeting voters that appears to show disagreement, before we would do that, we bring it back to this board to, say these were the changes FinCom made, because a lot of times they're just housekeeping things like that. And then if you update your referral in that way, everyone's in alignment, for town meeting. We got some brand new information just late last week. We got our renewal rate on health insurance. I don't know if anyone read the memo, but in the other packet, not your packet, 1%. 1%.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Right.
What was, I'm trying to recall what was built, it was like 50.
I built 8% into my model.
Okay.
The Teamsters, as you know, that's a set amount, so that goes up, per the union contracts. But the Maya, Blue Cross Blue Shield plan, so we got 1%. I got a call about a week ago, and then I got it in writing on Thursday. I've signed the form, returned it to them, so that's locked in.
Wow.
We are, there are some adjustments in health insurance in terms of, just the actual plan, the head count and different things. So it's not just a linear thing. But yeah, there's some updates that, if you do get a chance to look at Wednesday's FinCom packet, they're spelled out pretty well in there.
Great.
Angus, related to that, what about the opting out thing?
Well, so that's on for action tonight. I did carry in my proposed budget an assumption that you would favorably recommend the increase in the opt-out. But if you don't do that, then I would make that adjustment. But that's on the agenda for tonight, is to a request to renew the opt-out program for the next 3 fiscal years with a increase from 1,200 to 1,500 on the family and 6,000 to 75, or 600 to 750 on
Yeah.
the individual plan.
Is
I would
that-
make a motion to approve said recommendation.
Second,
All in favor?
I wanted to ask a
Okay,
question.
sure.
Is that pretty typical for municipalities to have the opt-out?
I can't speak to typical because I haven't done that kind of research. I can tell you, we did have it in place up in Hampden, Maine, which is a pretty conservative town, so if that's any indicator. And it was, I shouldn't even say, it was a lot more
Mhm.
than this, like many multiples of, I think it was like 8,000. It was a significant amount.
Yeah, interesting.
So I think this is a really modest benefit.
Mhm.
Sorry.
And I mean, was it the treasurer collector proposing this, or was she
Yeah.
just doing this on your behalf?
No, she brought this forward.
Okay, and does she opt out?
Oh, good question. No, I don't know. I don't know.
It just kind of struck me as, I don't know, kind of unusual, or,
Yeah, okay. No, I think it was more just like trying to keep pace with,
with other towns.
well, I don't know what kind of research she did about it.
Mhm.
It is pretty modest and, you know,
No, yeah.
considering what the town saves, I think it's pretty modest
Mhm.
personally.
So what is the total cost for each of those two? If, you know, how much does the town save by having an employee not choose a family plan or an individual plan?
Well,
I mean, I know there's an employee contribution, but what's the town contribution?
town contribution for
Like for,
the health insurance.
So
Yeah.
65%.
Yeah, so I can tell you in round numbers,
Mhm.
I have it in the, oh, actually, you know what, I have it, I have the FinCom booklet or packet for Wednesday's meeting right here. And this includes my budgeting worksheet for health insurance, which has the exact amounts that we use, as long as I can find it. Yeah, it's on page 27 of the FinCom booklet. You'll see this
okay,
where we've got kind of the head count. So we have, we have the different Blue Cross. And then we have the opt-out. So I can tell you, we have, for instance, on the water, we have 2 opt-out family, no opt-out individual. On the town budget, we have 18 opt-out family, 1 opt-out individual. But yeah, we've got the head count on the different plans and the town share on an annual basis. We do have like a Cadillac plan at the top,
Mhm.
but no one's on that.
yeah,
No one's been on that for years. So I won't even leave. So the next highest plan, individual plan, town share about 8,600 for FY24. Family just over 23,000
mhm.
is the town share.
Okay, so that's.
Yeah, and then for the
Yeah, so 23,000
Teamsters,
to 1,500.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
for the Teamsters, interestingly, there is no family or individual, it's just a plan.
Mhm.
So it's a fixed amount of 18,500, a little more than that. Whether it's an individual or family, so
Okay,
that's kind of interesting.
all right, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Angus, is the DPW and the police, are they the same? I'm just curious.
For the Teamsters?
Yeah, for the health insurance.
Yes, all of those are aligned.
Okay.
So that was item H that we just dealt with.
Yeah, we're gonna drop back to F.
Okay, so item F, I think is very exciting, and it's not anything you need to decide tonight. The good news on this earmark, we had learned about this last summer, but we didn't really get any detail until much more recently. West Newbury was one of 5 towns that received $250,000 earmark for the 5 towns. So our first question, was, does that, we have to work together with the other 4 towns for a single 250 earmark, or do we each get 50? It took actually months to get an answer to that. And the answer is we have a single $50,000 earmark for economic development purposes, very broad. And we also have a couple of years to use it. I believe we have, I want to say to the end of FY 26.
Yeah, that was what- that was it.
Yeah, June. So we have time. So you don't need to decide anything tonight, but I wanted to share what I think has emerged at a staff level as a popular idea, which is the idea of putting funds toward a planning effort for the town center, specifically for traffic calming. And so I included in your packet a sketch plan that Wayne did. He was obviously very clear in qualifying this. He's not a landscape architect, it's an idea. It doesn't mean it's what we would do. It's more to illustrate what we could do, or an idea that we could do, which, just kind of thinking outside the box. So totally open to other ideas of how we might best utilize a $50,000 earmark over the next, 3 years. And as you know, with the other projects underway and some of what we're going to talk about tonight on the Page School Pipe Stave Crossing, we have some much front burner projects. So this is not something we're looking to scope and do like next week. But I wanted to, now that we do have clarity on the
funds,
on the amount, I can't get the process going to execute a contract with the Commonwealth for the earmark until I provide them a scope. So that doesn't mean I need to do it right away. It just means that until we have a direction of how we're going to use it, we can't start the ball rolling.
So do you understand his sketch here? I mean, these might be common designations, like when the bar goes across one lane, like in front of the post office, the black bar.
Oh, that's a stoplight.
Yeah, it's a stop, stoplight there, so.
It's actual light?
No, a stop line.
Okay,
Yeah, just to pull that back from the, to give people, cars an easier. So
Okay.
when people are stopping for the crosswalk, they're directed to stop here instead of like right up
okay,
there.
got it,
And also, they're not blocking the intersection.
right. And looks like in front of where the auto place is, that kind of rounded thing on the curve, is that just like a?
The curvature, I think so there's a break in the sidewalk
Mhm.
in front of, for access to the auto shop,
Yeah,
and then that's the sidewalk. I think.
it's like a curved,
Yeah, I mean, the idea would be to put the funds toward engaging a landscape design.
Yeah.
This is really just an idea.
yeah, I'm just curious what his thinking is in terms of.
Actually,
traffic.
I think he put this together quite a while ago.
Yeah,
And just like.
he said he had 10 ideas, this is option number 1. I'm curious.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
So-
I had a conversation with him a week or two back, and I think personally, I think this is probably, what other place where else could we apply funds that are supposed to be used for?
No, I think it's
commercial
great.
advancement.
Yeah.
But the only thing I would think here is that, that island on the left, the reddish or pinkish crosshatch, that's nice and large and, plenty of space for stuff there. But it seems to me that by doing that, you're forcing traffic, the intersection to not be a perpendicular intersection. And my understanding was that in general, perpendicular type intersections were considered better, safer, better visibility,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff than more, angled, non-right angled intersection. So, I guess that's just one thing I think we'd want to talk about there when we get to that point.
Yeah.
But that's way down the road.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think, so we can either, give, direction that we think the basic idea of putting the funds toward a planning effort for traffic calming in the town center, obviously not with regard to a specific plan.
Right.
It'd be, a public planning process with multiple design options, similar to what we did with the safety audit. Or we could table this. There's really no hurry. What was actually focusing me on this was the other earmark, because that was a whole different story, and we were trying to get clear on which is what, and that is the one with a much shorter timeline. So
End of this fiscal year.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you need action from us on this? An
If
update?
you're ready, but if you want to wait, it's not anything we're gonna really have the bandwidth to do anytime real soon. So.
Archie, do you have the drawing? Have you seen do you have it in front of you, Archie?
He's muted.
Archie, you're muted.
Didn't want us to hear the ice clinking.
Archie, are you there?
Can you unmute him?
All I can do is ask him to unmute.
Got it. Sorry, I must have hit that by accident. No, I thought it was interesting, the concept of doing that. I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I too. So what would we vote on? Just to use the funds for the downtown area?
Yeah. And what I would do is, it's a very general thing that you put in through this online portal with the Commonwealth, and you have to put in a scope and budget, but it can be very broad. It could be $50,000 for planning for traffic calming and pedestrian safety improvements in and around, the intersections of, Maple and Main and Church. And that's sufficient. If you have more detail, you can provide it, but they don't require that. And then that's enough to get the process of getting a contract executed. And once you have a contract, then you can do a procurement process. And as a design effort, I would think it would be an RFQ process, not an RFP. And I can tell you that Wayne and I did talk it over, and our strong tendency would be to actively seek a different engineer than the one we've been working with at Page, not because they're not doing a good job, they are, but just because it's really important to have different designers with different perspectives, and also there's bandwidth issues. So our intent would be to do an RFQ, solicit at least 3 quotes, and then you all can be as involved as you'd like to be in the vendor selection. But this is something, I've said it, but this isn't like this spring thing. It's more just, it was front of mind, so I thought I'd share it for tonight, but it's not something we'd be actively moving forward until we have the kind of staff bandwidth to do that.
How long have you or other staff been thinking about ideas? I guess what I'm wondering is, should we just go ahead and say this is a good choice? Well,
we got the notice back in July that we'd gotten these funds. I sent it around at that time to you all and to town planner and the town clerk, and I think I must have sent it separately to, I sent the DPW director as well. And then started to loop in Christine Wallace when she started, as well as our new town planner, Sue Brown. And, everyone seemed to think they liked the idea of focusing on the town center, focusing on traffic calming and pedestrian safety. And that doesn't mean there's not some other idea out there, but at a staff level, there's definitely.
Well, I mean, I think this makes sense. We have heard, Dick Cushing has been very vocal about his concerns about that area from a safety standpoint. I guess I haven't had specific conversations with other people, but I'm guessing there are other people who.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, okay. So to me, I can't think of any place else in town. It is, such as it exists, it is our town center, and there's more pedestrian activity in that area than anywhere else in town, without question. On a regular, on a all year long basis.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of enthusiasm at the staff level for kind of an actual proactive planning effort.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would think it would be really very popular, with residents to really ideally build into the scope a real engagement and get some sketch plans and different ideas. I think there's an opportunity to do something really, really interesting.
Well, I think if we're in favor of that, I mean, if we make a motion now to kind of at least do our part and then.
Yeah, then we can at least get the contract in place, because until that's in place, I kind of can't do anything.
Right.
So once we have the contract in place, then, once we have a free few minutes to really do more, we can kind of run with that. So
Mhm.
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, so what, I'm trying to figure out what the motion would be.
I guess to,
Apply the earmark funds towards reconfiguration of the
Town center.
of the town center sidewalks and.
yeah, I would just say,
Just the
planning,
town, yeah.
planning.
I think you
for it.
should, I think you should say possible reconfiguration.
Yeah, planning for the traffic, it's not gonna get bricks and mortar for 50 grand.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah,
Planning
yeah.
for,
Sorry, okay.
traffic calming and pedestrian safety improvements in the town center.
Is that kind of like a collaborative motion? Do I have to repeat that or do you?
Yeah,
Do you have
every last word, you gotta take out all the garbage too.
I guess
So
it's right
apply
down.
earmark funding for planning for,
Town
Town
center.
center.
town center, traffic calming and pedestrian safety improvements.
Second,
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, all right, as this takes shape, we will, we'll keep you apprised of that. Thank you.
Okay, discussion of Congressman Moulton invitation to submit projects for consideration for potential federal FY 24 community project funding. Potential applicability to Middle Street Bridge.
So we received something like this every year around this time, and generally it comes in with not a lot of advance time to navigate the various, opportunities and see if there's a good fit. Actually, at 4:59 today, I received a substantially identical email, on behalf of Senator Warren's office, but exact same, So, every year around this time, we get something like this, and so far we haven't gone after it because it's kind of like not a lot of time to put potentially a lot of time into exploring programs, seeing if one fits, and if so, putting a respectable effort into.
We have a program for you.
So
We
I put this on the agenda, not having researched it, and but I just, we got it. I felt I need to share it, and you can see I did send it along to the grant writer in Newburyport. This grid that you saw in here was something she had prepared, and just to kind of illustrate what programs they're looking at for potential bridge funding. I didn't see any silver bullets on here.
And so March 17th deadline, right?
Well, that's funny because I'm seeing one in Senator Warren's as March 15th at 6 p.m.
So is it just Senate versus House?
It could be.
Yeah, Congressman Moulton says
Yeah,
5
yeah.
p.m. on March 17th.
Right, yeah. So I think given
What was it
that,
again? 7 p.m. on the 15th or 5 p.m. on the 17th?
6 p.m.
Oh,
5 p.m. on the 17th,
6 on the
6
15th.
on the 15th is this one from, oh, wait a second.
Is it the same bucket of funds?
So this is what I'm seeing. So I'm writing to notify you that Senator Warren is now accepting requests for congressionally directed spending for the 24 Senate appropriations process.
And this is community project funding.
Okay, so this is congressionally directed spending, which it looks like maybe is different. We invite your organization to submit an FY24 CDS request to our office through our online portal. All CDS requests must be submitted electronically. Deadline. We strongly encourage all applicants to submit an identical request to Senator Markey's office. So it looks like it's different. Again, this just came in tonight, so I don't know if the programs are the same or different as those listed here. I think given that unless one of you has had time to review all this, which I'm sure you haven't, maybe we could leave it that if any of us find something that looks like it'd be a good fit for the bridge, that we kind of, you know, try to run with that and see if we can do something in the next 2.5 weeks. I know with, you know, with FinCom and different things, it's very hard to see that happening.
Right.
But at the same time, it comes in right around this time every year.
Right.
It's
And,
like,
and we do have a project.
and we have a project that,
That
you
is
know, best case scenario
almost
is
shovel ready.
almost shovel ready, and best case scenario, it's shovel ready by June 30th. That's whatever it's trying to get done.
Speaking of which, is there any recent update on the 2 outstanding permits?
No, I got copied on something that Sarah Chrisell of BSC had sent over to DEP just this morning, again, saying like, where are we on the, you know, the public comment period now closed? How many weeks ago? 4 weeks, 5 weeks? We haven't even gotten anything as to whether there were any public comments. I mean, it's just, it's very frustrating. So no, nothing substantive. They're continuing to try to push it, but, and I haven't heard anything more on the chapter 85 either.
So would the intent be to partner with Newburyport, or we would just each submit our own grant?
Well, I mean, you see what I wrote.
Yeah.
I think that would be
Via-
the thing that would,
Partner, yeah.
I mean, I think that would, especially with what's going on in Congress, right? I mean, it's not like these representatives are,
Right.
you know, it's a divided Congress, so I think anything that's gonna have any chance, you know, the more constituents are
Yeah.
organized around that, the better. But just because that's true doesn't mean that, you know, that we would need to partner with them. It just would be ideal if we found a
So
program.
for the Senate, we say we're in Massachusetts. For the House, we say we're in Texas. We want any chance at funds.
So, yeah, so I haven't gotten a response back from Newburyport since forwarding this. You know, I think if we're gonna find something, we can find it and make it happen. I just don't know if that's true.
So you're gonna forward that other email, the one from us?
Yeah, why don't I forward that right now while we're thinking about it? I'll go ahead and copy Wayne in case he's got some downtime during snow operations tonight.
Is it snowing yet?
Can't tell.
No.
Yeah, they hit your mailbox.
Get your $85.
All
All
right, what's
right,
next?
next we have, so item I requested to pass that over. Still doing some, you know, review of the financial policy, so I aim to have that back 2 weeks from tonight. some things get mixed up.
It's just that one opt-out reappeared again in there.
Okay. All right, so now we're on the minutes.
Yeah, I move we approve the minutes of December 19th, 2022.
I have a couple of minor things. Yeah, December 19th, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so on, let me see, on the first page, under B, presentation recommendations at the bottom, I think that's supposed to read Chief Procurement Officer to proceed with the Page School feasibility study selection process as opposed to process selection.
Yes. Which page are you on right now?
The first page of the December 19th minutes, under item B. At the bottom, the second to last line.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be selection process. These are kind of, and then under item E, the next page. Again, this is trivial, I guess, but it says legislature. I think that's supposed to be legislation.
Yeah.
But other than that, the second. All in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Was that for one or for both?
that was for one. Did you have any?
I
Revisions?
didn't pick up anything in the other one.
All right, I move to approve the minutes of January 18th, 2022.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now on to updates. So, yeah, so this $30,000 earmark kind of fell out of the sky with the Mass Office of Tourism. What had happened was the last day of January, I got an email from that office saying that I was receiving it because I hadn't responded to a prior email sent in September. And I went combed through my emails from September. I didn't receive something in September. So, we had some rounding around with the office, but long story short, there's a $30,000 earmark in the current year budget. And with the Mass Office of Tourism, and I wish we had learned about it in September because we'd have an extra 4 months, but we didn't. And so since we have been actively working with TEC to scope what we might do as next steps for pedestrian planning at the Page Pipe Stave 113 intersection, we talked with them, as you know, from our prior meeting, about two ideas. One was drilling down on that crossing to see if something could get to from conceptual design to actually engineered and permitting through DOT to actually do something at that crossing. And the second idea was to take the concept of a broader corridor plan for sidewalk improvements, beyond just the idea stage, to actually do some conceptual planning at that. And so we had asked TEC to put together either one scope with two pieces, or if they preferred two separate scopes. So we took before tonight's meeting, we did receive two separate scopes. And I'm not going to ask you to make a recommendation on these tonight because you just got them and none of us have had time to read them. What I would ask is more, without getting into the exact scopes, knowing that we have 30,000 that's got to be fully expended by June 30th. Where would you like to see? It would seem to, it would seem to me that, that's not enough time to initiate any kind of corridor planning process. It could be enough time to take the conceptual plan for the crossing and to get that as far through the design process as can happen in 3 months, which is, it's not going to get through DOT permitting, obviously, but if they could put some real work toward getting that to a stage of engineering, that would seem to be a good use of the funds. Again, I wish we known about this in September, because that would have given us a lot more time.
Angus, if we do this, does this count for our 25% for the tip money or no?
So the tip isn't a 25% financial contribution. It's that to be taken seriously as a tip project, you know, you got to be at 25% design. So I think that the crosswalk, or the crossing and the ped activated blinkers isn't of scale to be a tip project. Something more like, you know, because I mean, even if Wayne's conservative estimates are right, he said he could see that quote unquote simple crossing metastasizing into like a $200,000 to $300,000 project before DOT's done with it. If they want every sidewalk to connect and this and that, you know, you're doing sidewalks up to Page, and you know that could, you know, really balloon. But even then, you're talking $200,000 to $300,000, which in the scheme of things with the tip isn't
Okay.
a regional scheme of project. If you're talking sidewalks potentially over a longer period of time from Page, you know, running west to the training field, you're into maybe $2 to $3 million.
That's an unbelievable project, because there's some, I mean, even just think about it, there's some very old houses that are very close to the street. There's all sorts of issues to get there. Yeah.
That's something that to get, you know, looking, and that the tip is a longer term time horizon, similar to our capital planning process where things really need to be on there. You know, with the tip, that's a 5-year you know, planning process that you know, every federal transportation dollar goes through the tip, and it's they updated, you know, it's a 5-year plan. So just to get on the tip, you're still years away. So it's a long-term play, but the idea with the corridor planning is to try to start with a conceptual plan, which if there's then consensus around that in the future to get that to a 25% engineering, at which point you can compete to get it on the tip.
I think, okay, you kind of answered my question for me anyway. I mean, we don't want to, I think we don't want to wait 5-10 years to correct or at least somewhat improve the sight lines and the crossing at Page. That's something that we want to do more expeditiously.
I totally agree.
So can you just, in general, these two proposals, just summarize the scope? I mean, how are they different?
Yeah, so I can, just based on, this is at first glance, but this follows, you know, multiple calls we've had with TEC over the last 3 weeks or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we had asked them was to prepare one scope and budget to focus on the crossing, and to take the conceptual planning that resulted from the safety audit, you know, ideally, you know, and when we first started talking with them, it was just right around when we talked about it with the board a few weeks ago. We didn't know about the 30,000 yet, so we didn't know we were dealing with a June 30th timeline on that. So the idea was to actually take that fully through DOT permitting to where you now had it, you know, that you could get cost out of the construction and get that, you know, funded for construction. It's not, like I said, it's not going to get through permitting in 3 months, obviously. But that's what we'd ask them, is to focus one proposal on that immediate crossing, and then to focus a separate proposal on a broader corridor conceptual planning process. So the one that's going to 49,000 is focused on the crossing, and the one at the 39.5 is focused on the corridor planning. And I'm just, at a glance, I'm seeing the existing condition survey and base map preparation. They're proposing a lump sum of 19.5 just to do that. I would, I would want to talk with them and say, can that be complete by June 30th? Because getting survey is not a small thing. That's
Yeah.
important. That's money well spent. We're not going to get through, bid documents and bidding assistance. So what they're showing is task 3, 7,500. That's not going to be payable out of that earmark.
Yeah.
And as for task 2, I'd hate to turn funds back. I can tell you that. We want to put the money to use. Just as an aside, it kind of drives me nuts that it seems more and more of these Commonwealth agencies are relying solely on email. And I just wish they'd put something in the mail.
Yeah.
Because we never, and we didn't overlook it. But when I'm getting 80 or 90 emails a day, like something might slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
I'm very sure on this one, I didn't overlook it, but it really does drive me nuts that when you're talking about $30,000, like send us something in the mail.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's.
So do they have sufficient resources to do this on that time frame?
Well, to do,
Either of these?
I gotta read it, more closely to say, what have they put in here on timeline? They knew, they knew about,
The grant.
the grant, the earmark and the short timeline. But without having time to read this,
Okay.
I don't want to go out on a limb on that.
Okay.
So, I guess my question is on the specifics of the scope, because I would, work with Wayne to get the scope to be the most that we could do within the money and within the time available. It's more just do you support the idea of, let's see, so date of completion, they're saying survey and preliminary design submitted 8 to 10 weeks following authorization. So even if we authorize this, this week, I think, we're March, April, May, June, there's 16 weeks. So, it looks like they're ready to move pretty quickly on that first task. But yes, this, is that where you'd like to see that earmark go? And then, and the second question I have is really something I would suggest we put on for 2 weeks from tonight on the 13th, is as you work to fill in a blank on the placeholder article for the, pedestrian safety improvements, is this the right scope that you want to bring to the voters or not necessarily? Because, when you put that placeholder on, it was before we knew we had this earmark. And the intent of that was to keep some momentum going after we got the safety to schools.
Well, couldn't we supplement the 49,000?
You could, yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I agree.
That's a great idea.
There is
Yeah.
momentum in this, you
Yeah.
have visibility. I
Yeah.
think it's good to.
Yeah,
sell
that's a
through.
great idea. That the 30,000 takes us through June 30th, and then maybe town meeting is asked to appropriate the balance to be able to complete that scope. And then maybe we come back on this one at a future
Yeah.
cycle.
Yeah,
So,
But, since you're just getting this now, I definitely think, we all need the time to read it, so I would, I think that the immediate term direction I do need tonight is, are you comfortable if we, work to, because for the purpose of the earmark, it'd probably be cleaner from an accounting standpoint, and I know the state likes to see deliverables. I don't know that using an earmark for 2/3 of a overall project, I don't know if that's gonna, because they like to see it complete and what was the work product. So maybe we work with TEC to,
break it out.
yeah, they could throw out task 3 right away, because that's, we're not getting the bid documents
Yeah,
in 4 months. And maybe we work to
wait, they can throw out which task?
task 3, the bid documents and bidding assistance,
Yeah.
because that's for construction. We wouldn't, that's a way.
Right.
So maybe we work with them to, keep task 1 and then cut task 2 in half. And divide up those sub bullets in a way that is logical, so we have a
Yeah.
standalone scope and budget for 30,000.
Okay.
And then turn into a second phase, you know, that becomes maybe what's
Yeah.
proposed for town meeting funding.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
That would, yeah, that'd be.
That's good.
Yep, okay. And then, you know, we'll read this one closely and maybe 2 weeks from tonight, we can
Okay.
talk about, you know, how do we want to go on that one, but I think that's, if everyone's comfortable with that direction, I think that gives us what we need to just kind of keep this on the fast track.
Yeah.
You know, we've been talking to TEC, you know, right since we got that Safe Routes to Schools grant denial. But it was really, once we learned about this earmark, you know, I think we've been pressing them to get these proposals to us sooner than they would have in the normal course of things. So I appreciate that they kind of, you know, have pushed to meet our timelines on that.
Okay.
All right, so that's item K. Item L, I included some just kind of chicken scratch notes from our call. We basically got the answers we were looking for. Like I said in the note there, you know, our follow-up is to send them these written questions and just get some written responses. So we're totally sure that we understood the advice we were given. But, you know, we did get some good direction that we've already put to use, for instance, in the meeting today with Bob and Mark Marlowe on the Buy American, that does apply, even if the ARPA funds don't come into a later phase, you know, till the construction phase on the Church of Prospect, but that if they were to buy
The entire
Right.
project has to
Yeah,
apply.
yeah. So we'll send some follow-up questions. I thought I might get to that by the end of last week, but as you know, some things cropped up that gobbled up some hours, so that didn't happen. So it was just a 30-minute call. So I think that I continue to think that technical assistance will be not a big dollar item, but very, very helpful.
So will you have the same person from that firm be your point of contact or?
So that was the point of contact. So Kaylee is more a support to Hannah. Hannah was the one that I know Jenny had been to workshops that Hannah had run. And,
Yeah.
So I think, you know, Kaylee represented, she's got access to all of the firms, you know, like she'll be our point of contact. If there's anything she doesn't know, she can go right to Hannah, but it sounds like Hannah's pretty darn busy. So, you know, I think Kaylee's more junior, but once we got talking, she seemed to know her stuff. So,
Yeah, okay, good.
All right, next item, I think you all knew this, but the planning board had unanimously favorably recommended Dodson and Flinker. I had sat in on those interviews last Tuesday and I 100% agreed. I thought their presentation, both written and verbal, was excellent. I think they really have a real sensitivity to small town issues. Obviously, they're based out of the Berkshires, and that's kind of their bread and butter is the small town planning and landscape architecture. They have a very, very highly capable design team and visioning and community engagement, which I think is just what we need for this MBTA process. So it's just letting you know they have been notified that they were selected, and we'll be working with them to get a contract in place as soon as we can. I know Wayne's already working on that.
So, if they're from the Berkshires, will that mean that more of the meetings are remote, or are they planning on?
I don't know. Those in the emails say we didn't get into that level of detail. You know, Sue has been the primary point of contact and will be the kind of staff project manager on this. So I know that part of their scope is gonna be putting together a specific engagement plan.
Yeah.
Which I'm very sure will include a combination of virtual and in person.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay,
But I think the more we can do in person,
yeah,
I mean, you need both,
Yeah.
but you definitely need enough in person to create some momentum and get people together.
Well, miraculous, look at that number.
Yeah. Both of the proposals came in, right? So the contracted amount, we are backing some out for the water, because that's not something they're reviewing, so their contract's gonna be for a lesser amount. And so I've been corresponding with Tate and Howard on the water piece, and because back when we put the grant in back in June, we talked with them about what it might, what level of effort, which I don't think is gonna be huge, but we wanna make sure we're paying for that out of the grant and not, cannibalizing their budget that they're already doing for the water department. And I wanted to make clear to the water department, we're not looking for them to put work onto that contract toward this. This is a different effort. So I've been trading emails with John Gregory, and we'll have a call later this week to pin down a budget number to hold aside for the water analysis, and we'll hold that out of anything we contract with us, like her.
so will Christine be managing Tata and Howard for that work?
The town will be, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I haven't talked to Christine specifically, but that will be, whether she does or Sue.
But
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
other
but
than
the town,
water.
yes,
Yeah.
correct,
Okay.
yes, absolutely.
Okay,
And the contract would be with the town,
okay,
not with the water department.
great.
So yes, it's coming together. You can see the website narrative. Sue had put together a draft. I made some edits. If you ever see something on the website that you think could be better, just send us a suggestion. It's very, very easy to update these things. I have a draft in my inbox on the housing production plan update Sue had sent to me a little while back, and I got like a third of the way through it and I got sidetracked, but
Mhm.
we have a good collaborative process. I appreciate the opportunity to take a look at these things before they're posted. Sometimes it means it takes longer, but I think it's, we try to, get good information out there. So you'll be seeing more and more of those project pages.
Yeah, I
now
like
that
them.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. It's
Yeah.
definitely once we're kind of one at a time, but once we have 8 or 10 of them built out, we'll do something more, just an e-blast, just to let people know, like, hey, maybe you've heard of this or that project, or check out this. Right now, it's kind of hidden on the website. That wasn't by design. It was by lack of design. So we need to make it like one of the prominent buttons.
Yeah.
And so, that's all part of the website architecture that the work in progress. And then on the next item N, this is just an updated projects list. You've seen this before, but I got a slightly updated version from Christine Wallace on the 17th. So I just dropped this in here. And there's any number of projects my office is working on too. But I will say that for kind of just some of my stuff this week is working with Summer Rec. We've got a My Rec training Thursday, and we're working to get the site populated. So they've sent me a draft of narratives and updates and everything for the Summer Rec program. So I have to find time in the next day or two to go through all of that. We're working with Newbury Port and Animal Control intermunicipal agreement. They had sent us a proposal a couple of weeks ago, and she did some good analysis on that, but I need to really drill down on that and set up a time to meet with their finance director to see. Ideally, our goal would be to arrive at something that at a staff level we think is good, and then bring it to the board, rather than bring it to the board before we, kind of given it a once over. One of the others, there's some other things. So there's a cable advisory, it's Thursday, it's investment policy. We're working with them on a RFQ for the money manager for the investments. And I did talk to Wayne today, and I told him, I know he's already juggling a lot, but he was great. And, I think Caitlin Bradstreet's going to probably be able to help on that, where she's already taking trainings on the MCPPO, and the investment policy committee has done a lot of the hard work of coming up with the questions. I think it's just kind of partly a formatting issue of getting that into more of a traditional RFQ type format, making sure we totally understand the purchasing rules for financial services, which are somewhat complicated. I've read them a couple of times and I can never quite get my head around it, because it's an RFP for this or RFQ for that. It's different than the traditional purchasing. So Wayne's going to need to get a little bit up the learning curve on kind of a new side of purchasing, because that's not something that's really, you don't go out to bid for financial services very often.
Right.
It's every 6 or 7 years. So, but I think we can generally meet the timeline that I had set out to Chris Wild a few weeks ago.
Angus, did Chris, he had a whole 2 or 3 pages of criteria, and the committee decided that we gave, instead of having to have another meeting and everything else, we gave him the prerogative that he could weed out some of the extraneous criteria that was listed, and he would just come up with the meat of the matter of what we really wanted. So did he do that?
He did. Yep. Last Tuesday, he sent me and Caitlin it was, like a more of a distilled abbreviated RFP.
Right.
It all fits on one page. So.
Okay. We just thought that was one of the reasons it may seem lacking in content or whatever. It was because we're small potatoes to Fidelity or something like that. We wanted to have it something that a bigger firm as well as a smaller firm could look at and say, okay, we'll spend 15 minutes and fill out the form for West Newbury, rather than having it too complicated, and then it would go in the circular file because no one wanted to bother with it.
Got it. That's a really good perspective. Thank you for sharing that.
That's why we cut it down, so that we would get more bites, more bids.
Okay, that's good to know. I think, like I said, I think it's really just a formatting issue of getting the substance that Chris and the committee had provided, which looks very good, and just getting it into like something that more looks like an RFQ. But with what you're telling me, I'll make sure we don't do that in a way that
don't overload it, because that was the whole point. We cut it down with the idea that, well, Fidelity's not going to spend 3 hours filling this out for our little piece of the pie. It wasn't worth it. It wouldn't be worth it for them. So that's why we kept it simple.
No, that makes good sense, but there are just certain ingredients, such as like the MBTA communities one. There's just a little paragraph that sets out the selection process, and how's that going to work, and how's it shortlisted, and who's interviewing, and who's ultimately making the decision. There's things like that are just very important to get into your purchasing document. So those are, when I talk about like formatting or kind of basic ingredients, those are the kinds of things I'm talking about that are not.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't expect the committee to provide that, but that's the work it'll take, which I think isn't going to be a whole big heavy lift. But I am going to hopefully get. I told Wayne if I meet with Caitlin Bradstreet for probably 30 minutes and give her a template and give her some direction, she can run with that. She's really doing excellent work. So I just know how busy Wayne is, and I don't want to he's
he shouldn't have to deal with that. No.
Yeah. so.
Great. That is for that?
That's it, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so follow me, so I'm just placing items for future agenda.
I have a couple things that came into the select board email address. I don't know if you may not have seen, Angus, the letter about streetlights, and
I did, I thought it was excellent.
could we put that in on the
Definitely.
agenda for, so
Yeah.
this is Brian Murphy
Yep.
suggesting
Yeah,
we
he
look
reached
at,
out to me and I
LED.
suggested he sent
Yeah.
something to the select
yeah.
email address.
Yeah, no, I was 100% in agreement with that, yeah.
And then there were a sign, excuse me, a sign request came in today. Do I forward that to Jim, or how should I handle
Sign
it?
request for a temporary sign?
Yeah, for the Pentucket,
Yes, yeah,
volunteers.
I would say forward it to Jim and Rebecca. Jim might be out for a
Okay,
couple of days.
so that would go to the town clerk's office?
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
if it's select board approval? Okay, and then there was also, I just saw one for a special event permit. Should that go to the town clerk?
Yes.
Office as well?
yeah.
Okay. All right. That's it.
Yeah, so, another item is, there was an opportunity, not for the town to apply for a grant, but for a nonprofit or some other entity to apply for a grant for, essentially, things to enhance pollinator habitat. Could be seeds, could be plants. A group of people in the WN2 group have been communicating with people in some other communities. The organization, I have the information, I looked it over, and I don't recall a lot of detail because there's been a lot of other reading to be done. The ideal here is that, their minimum acreage is 150 acres for this grant opportunity. It's unlikely that they're gonna be able to put together 150 acres. However, they're thinking about trying to move forward anyway with a smaller amount. And I think open space is gonna pick this up, but I'm not sure about that yet. But the idea would be that they would essentially need access to land. Would not be disruptive to land. It wouldn't be a long-term commitment for land. It wouldn't be changing land. It would essentially be trying to improve the land to make it better for pollinator habitat. And that could fit in nicely with what we're doing regarding invasives, and also into an overall mowing plan that has been talked about, but we really have not moved forward with it very well yet. So sometime in the next couple of meetings, the grant application is actually due March 10th, so we're not even meeting before that. The decision may be made that they just go ahead and apply for the grant. And if they get it, then still, have a lot left to do. It's really an accelerated, the whole thing is too accelerated. So I don't know if it's practical, but I just wanted to give you a heads up, because it's possible that, for our next meeting, somebody might ask us, we might get some communication and want to put it on our next agenda to essentially allow access to some parcels of land in town. I talked with Carol Decker today, and parcels might include the intersection of Cherry Hill and Cherry Hill, Bachelor, Moulton Street, that field where the other invasive work is being done. It might include some of the land around Pipe State. It might include the town-owned fields at the intersections of Middle and Indian Hill. It might include the field in the River Bend area. If you put those all together, actually, that probably encompasses or would account for 40 to 50 acres, I'm guessing. Apparently, there's a potential for some land in Haverhill, town-owned land in Haverhill or city-owned land in Haverhill, maybe something in Groveland. So this is really just informational right now.
Could you incorporate the other fields in the Indian Hill? It's Greenbelt owned, but that field at the top of
Yeah, I mean, Greenbelt would have to agree to that,
Yeah.
but I would think that in that case, it would be complementary to what Greenbelt is already trying to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
And yeah, the time frame is kind of impossible.
Yeah, it seems like they always are.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, further to that, there, I think it asks that, you begin I don't know, they must turn the grant around really fast. The expectation is they turn the grant around, grant approval, very fast, because I think it was, 3 months from grant approval, they're looking for whatever you're gonna do to be in process. If this is something that happened again next year, it would be a lot better.
Mhm. What is the group that? is, Okay.
There's been too much stuff to look at, it's just all blended together.
Yeah. Okay,
But, you know, conceptually, I wanted to get this out.
mhm. So conceptually, this group would be looking for us to allow them access to these parcels.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Other items I've got penciled in for the next meeting on the 13th would be, major focus on water. We've confirmed their attendance, but that would be regarding both the proposed articles and FY24 operating budget, as well as some of the, just kind of the big picture on water, the strategic planning, and future water supply options. So that's, I think, going to be a centerpiece item. Next is we did confirm, although I'm actually, it's penciled in, but not 100% confirmed. We had invited Whittier Tech to present their proposed FY24 budget. The FinCom was agreeable that that should be at a televised select board meeting rather than FinCom, or to not have them come in twice. So I had heard from the business manager, Kara Cosmes, about a week or so ago that 13th works well for her. She just needed to clear it with the superintendent, but I think that would probably go forward. And then finally, we have some National Grid pole petitions for new poles and relocated poles. Those have actually been in process since August, because they needed some orders to conditions and
Mhm.
some things. So, but those have finally come to fruition, and I'm meeting with Wayne on that tomorrow morning, depending on how the snow goes, but just to make sure that we've got all the public notice requirements set. But as long as we get that all sent out properly, that would be for the 13th.
All right,
Move we adjourn.
second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Right.